Human sacrifice. That's a ritual, right?
Yeah.
So, what sort of action would you have to be undertaking to feel as if that is necessary
To appease the gods.
To set a tone?
We need to appease the gods, and we need to make sure the crops grow good this year. And it's too rainy.
Yeah. Too rainy. It's all about the culture around you, kind of, right? So it's I guess I would say that. I think it's a quote from Men in Black that a person is smart, but people are dumb. And so, like, a culture could really, like that's why I feel like right and wrong are kind of like subject to culture. It's kind of just like a collective it's like a majority collective understanding of the outcome of certain things, right? So, like, think about communism. Like, there's a pretty strong collective culture declaration that, you know, that communist is a bad thing, right? And I could see a culture, I'm sure there has been, where the narrative that they share of, you know, deities appreciating sacrifices, you know, like it's not necessarily what action you need what action is worthy enough. It's more of like, how strong is the culture convincing you that this is what actually leads to something else.
So I think I might be not communicating what I want to communicate. So let's think about the part of this ritual that is important is the sacrifice part. And the idea is that, let's say, you can sacrifice many different things, right? You can sacrifice
goats,
drinking, or you can sacrifice
fasting is a common one.
If you want to become a doctor, if your goal is to be a neurosurgeon, you have to make lots of sacrifices. You have to give up a potential lifestyles. There's certain lifestyles that you can't have if you want to be a neurosurgeon. That's a sacrifice, and you can not make the proper sacrifice. Does that make sense?
You said you can't make the proper sacrifice?
Yeah, there are instances where you don't make the proper sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
You can see that happening, right?
Yeah, it's like something...
You didn't train hard enough or whatever.
Yeah, you didn't study, and so you're the punishment for that, for not... You know, you went out and just partied with your bros. And so the punishment for that, for living that lifestyle and not sacrificing to the lifestyle you wanted to go down, is you fail your class or whatever. And then that costs you a fuckload of money.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, in order to be specialized in anything, you kind of have to narrow your pathway in different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of like failing to do that.
And so, I'm gonna use some extremely metaphorical language, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so the ability to perceive the future and to negotiate with it in a way using your mind to make things that you decide you want to have happen come into being is an almost magical thing. The fact that we can do that is godlike. We can create a future that we want if the sacrifice is correct, if it's, you know, satisfactory.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. If you want to change your lifestyle or make a life change, you know, and you adhere to the sacrifices necessary, you take all the correct steps. Not to say that you didn't take any wrong steps, but at least all the steps you did take were correct enough to get you there. you can create that that future or that self-actualized image of yourself that you imagined, or that was only a future fantasy.
Yeah. So I'd add one more dimension to that. It's like the concept of working smarter too, and not harder. So it's not just like the potency of like a sacrifice is a one-dimensional kind of value. It's more of like there are smarter ways of doing it. It's kind of like climbing skill curves, and it's not always clear. Like climbing a skill curve is a very abstract kind of concept, because what it really is like mastering a bunch of micro skills, and a lot of these things aren't necessarily things that we consider. We just like do them, and sometimes we do consider them.
Those are all sacrifices. Like you're deciding to do that instead of something else. That is if we were to only ever do something that is 100% pleasurable all the time, like, you know, life does not look the way it does now. We don't have society, you know. We put in proper sacrifices, and we decide to do other things that aren't fun so that we can make bigger, better things.
Yeah, or okay, here's a quote for you. When grown, or it's, I can't remember the first part of it, but when grown men plant dates, because the time it takes for a date tree to grow fruit is like 80 to 90 years. So if a grown man is planting dates, that's something he'll never get to taste the fruits of his labors there, and he's choosing to spend his time planting a fruit that he'll never get to partake in.
Yeah.
Versus going to partake in fruits of people who have planted before him.
Not bearing the fruits of your labor.
See, what are you trying to speak to when you say that?
Just kind of comparing the example to that.
Well, tell me the example again in my brain so I can compare it myself.
When you have grown men planting dates.
No, not that. Not what were you contrasting to that too?
I can't. I wasn't really contrasting. I was more just like comparing a similar quote to what you were saying.
I don't.
Well, what was I said before that too?
What was I saying? I was trying to say. Okay.
We were talking about sacrificing, and like, we didn't just how we got here now wasn't just from doing what we like instinctively just want to do. Yeah, we've put sacrifice in.
That makes sense. That does make sense.
Yeah. But then Vicktor kind of took it another level, just like, all right, well, there are some people that make sacrifices
even more.
For others,
people
they don't.
And that contributes to and then we linked it back together. That contributes to your statement on how we do function as a society and how this is all possible. We have people who plant fruits that they will never eat,
and so also sometimes the sacrifice that we have to make is sometimes the things that we love, and sometimes the things that we love the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that extreme example is the Isaac and Abraham, where God tells him to sacrifice his son, and so the example, the significant part of the significant thing to draw from that is that to have the future you foresee, sometimes you have to give up the thing that you love the most, you know, and that's dramatized in a metaphor of a man having to kill his son to, you know, appease the gods.